Alrighty, unusual for me in the middle of a working week, but as I promised you, there's things unfolding quicker than my working week will, and we want to make sure that we can keep that information flowing out there to all of you in Cyberland. Obviously, you've seen there's been quite some action around the use of words, so I made sure that, as per usual, most of my information is up on whiteboards for rebuttal should they choose to watch. But unfortunately, rebuttals is not what we see a lot. But also, in this new world that I am me, the egotist trying to turn into the realist, trying to be for the people, not just telling the people. I realize probably just a little bit. I'm just getting a bit of my own back. I've been calling out the freedom movement for a very long time. And it's nice to see what that feels like on the other side, with potentially without any facts or information. So I try and bring you the facts. I try and bring you the people that have got the facts. Pete and Donna have got the facts, and the word of the week is civilian. And the reason why we've shifted that way, right? It is going to be explained to you. And it's a little bit of horse before the cart stuff. With the way that we've been doing it. But I guess at the end of the day, we've got our reasons. We are working hard, and I am usually just the useful idiot, mouthpiece at the, on the propaganda machine, trying to offset that which is posed against us. So I'll bring Pete and Donna forward from the Corruption Whistleblower, and I'll just throw that up there as well. Pete and Donna, welcome to the show.
And how are you, Jody? And how are you to the listeners?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us on, Jody.
No, thanks for coming on. Like I said, we just need a little bit of clarity, because it's a fear-filled world at the moment, and fear-filled people are sharing fear with other people, and that's just sending people on tilt. They just don't know what to trust and believe anymore. So let's give them your rendition of why you're doing what you're doing, how you're doing it, and what does that mean to the people of this country. And tell me when you want that document brought up, if you want to talk first or you want it straight up. Or
No, we'll talk for a minute, because we just want to say thank you for your support, because what Peter's putting his name to and we're all helping is incredible ICC and ICJ submission. And the reason why we chose the word civilian, we'll unpack that today. We'll unpack what the document, the endorsement is, and what it means for Australia. So we've discovered stuff about the Constitution that's even shocked us. And so we're going to unpack all of that today as best we can and as briefly as possible. So we will be launching a website. As you can see, the ucsa.land. And look, we're just traveling, so I do apologize for any poor reception that you might get in regards to the internet connection. So so we are launching a new webpage, and it's purely for the endorsement of us to go over to the international courts. There's a small team coming together. We're working hand in hand with the First Nation people as well, because they have a definite a voice and claim. So we're working hand in hand with them, and we are finalising documents to be submitted to the ICC. And what we're talking about tonight is the endorsement letter. If you care for your country and you want to see it really freed, we thank you for supporting the what we're doing and the endorsement document, Jody. We thank you and the people who are supporting it. Of course, we've discussed this so much, haven't we, about there's no domestic answer. International law should be applied to this nation domestically, and it's clearly not. So I'll hand over to Peter for a bit, because that's just the introductory of what we're doing.
Yeah, so just a quick note on the ucsa.land webpage. That won't be live until next week. So this is a bit of a pre-launch for it to get people used to the idea of what's being discovered and why we're doing this, because, look, there's no remedy in our courts. We've written them thousands and thousands and probably even 1 million letters, and they just most certainly use I've said it before, their paper log making machine and just burning them out the back, because the paperwork doesn't seem to do anything. I was fighting for the Constitution for many years, wrote the corruption whistleblower paper on it. We're definitely not saying that the constitutional people, and we love them all, and we'd like it sometime to see some reciprocal love back, because we've got to fight this all as one. And if we don't fight it as one, it becomes confusing. But no one's managed to file anything into the ICJ where it's actually been sealed and those sorts of things. Plenty of people have sent letters there, but unfortunately, this government has Section 268, 121 and 122 in their Criminal Code Act, which means you must get the endorsement from the Attorney General, and Section 122 says that if he knocks it back, you've got no say-so. But we were wary of this when we ran the grand jury down there in Parliament House, and the reason we did that and included the Attorney General, so it becomes a conflict of interest for him to block it. And that's why everybody's sending their stuff to the ICC, and it just falls on deaf ears because they just go, well, where's your Attorney General endorsement? So it's not from lack of heart, but it's lack of the process moving forward.
And thank you to everyone who did come to the grand juries. We are most definitely implementing all of that. And it has given us a clear pathway into, like Peter's saying, into the ICC and ICJ. So we congratulate you all, and we thank you so much for your help and support.
Yeah, and looking just on that, the indictments are still sitting there, and some people have asked us, well, what's happening? Well, you can't file them in any courts here. I mean, let's get real. So we're getting ready to file them into the ICC and the ICJ. So just moving forward, we'd like to demonstrate in this document what we discovered
put the document up
in the Constitution. Yeah, get ready to put it up. Yep, in the Constitution, but it's in the 1899 draft bill. 1899 draft bill to constitute the Commonwealth of Australia. Now, people say the Constitution's been voted in. I bet 10-1 it has not the version that we've got, and we're going to prove that today, that all accountability and warranty from that Constitution that the people voted for has completely been removed. So, so look, it's all about discovery. You can't push back.
Take it to the page that we're talking
You can't
about.
push back discovery. When you find something new,
Yeah.
you can't unknow this stuff. So we just want the constitutionalists to just take a good look at what has been discovered, and the fact that the warranty's been removed from the Constitution, and just have a fresh look at what the 371,000 people
out of 3.77 million people.
Yeah, but it was
those the only ones that said yes.
Well, out of the 1.2 million or thereabouts eligible electors over the age of 21, and some of those were allowed multiple votes. If you had land parcels in, in multiple states, you could vote multiple times. Women were excluded, except for in South Australia.
And First Nation, no voice for you either.
So
that's what voted in the Constitution, the minimal amount of people.
That version.
Can I just add on that too? So, just because that wasn't, I just want to put some clarity. Only 10% of the people in the country took part in the referendum. 10% of.
That's.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So 10% of the people in the country took part in the referendum. So people that know about the referendum that we've just recently had, we understand what's required for a true referendum. So only 10%. Of that 10%, only 60% said yes. Right. So you're talking about 6% of the country voting something in. Females other than South Australia were not allowed to partake. Indigenous weren't invited because they weren't they weren't even in the
flora and fauna.
That's right. And so what effectively and you landowners were allowed up to 6 votes. Okay, so if you were a rich landowner, you were allowed up to 6 votes, which I presumed was for each of the colonies. And so again, I just wanted to put those numbers nice and clearly out there for the people that say that this is our one true document that is for the people. And I'm kind of like, it feels more like a Freemason version of a overthrow of Crown power as we work our way through it. But anyway, let's keep going. The numbers weren't clear. Sorry, guys. So I just thought I'd put that.
Yeah, great. So as you said, rightly so, 10% of the total population, but only approximately 1/3 of the eligible electors. 371,000 of the eligible 1.2 electors.
Oh, can I just interject here? Sorry.
but hang on a
No,
second.
finish your thing.
But voting wasn't compulsory, so we accept that. So sorry, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to say they had to rally up. Like round one, nearly no one voted yes. This was after round two, and really people really starting to push this whole idea to constitute. Really, they didn't want to constitute, and then the next thing that we move on to, which is
Federate.
even really. Sorry, yeah. Well, this is called a draft bill to constitute the Commonwealth of Australia.
Yeah.
This is what we all voted, what they all voted on. But this is the kicker, as you can see on this part of the screen. After they even put it through with minimal amount of votes, like not over 50%, they said, "Oh, so that's all right. It's the idea." One of the quotes said, "It's the idea. We're just going to put it over to UK anyhow." So UK take it into their parliament, pass it as a UK act. Okay, pass it as an act of the UK, and they change it. So Peter's going to talk to you about the change that it is. So of course, all the Aussies here think they're sending over this thing and they can bind the crown and keep everything accountable and keep it all above board. But wait a minute, why have they changed?
So the bill was sent to the Lord Chancellor and the Parliaments of the United Kingdom because the Constitution Act of 1900 or 1899 or 1901, whichever one of those years you want to call it, is an act of the United Kingdom Parliament. So they own it. They exclusively own it. So no one can take custody of it because that's a criminal offence to operate a trust without a written power of attorney. But what they had in this first draft was this act binds the crown. Now, when an act's got this binds the crown, it binds the government, it binds the states, it binds the Commonwealth, it binds all the states that are underneath it. And it also had in there that it would, the provisions of the act apply to the Queen and her heirs and successors in the sovereignty of the United Kingdom. So that part remained, and so that's covering clause 2 in the draft bill to constitute the Commonwealth of Australia. And when they got it over there, they removed this act binds the crown. They also removed the ability for Australians only to, which was in the draft bill, only to where. So the last port of call would have been the High Court here. So they changed the Constitution so you could make an application, I think if I'm right, to the Privy Council. So the English put that in there. In fact, when you change a constitution after one, or change any contract after the people at one party signed it, and then you alter it before you signed it, that's what's called fraud in the factum. But now let's get to the nitty and gritty of what happened when they removed in Section 2 of the Constitution Act that's been given royal assent. Because the royal assent's also got other problems, but we'll just stick with what's here. So covering clause in the 1900 in the 1900 one, no, in 1899 says Act binds the crown and the provisions apply to the Queen in the sovereignty and the heirs and successors in the sovereignty of the United Kingdom. So here you can see. So these are extracts from the Constitution, and what does it say? There's no Act binds the crown anymore. It only says the provisions of this act in referring to the Queen and her heirs and shall extend it to her heirs and successors in the sovereignty of the United Kingdom. So what that means is that's talking about now only one thing. That's the continued power, and it's talking about appointing a Governor General. It doesn't say any of the laws. It says the provisions referring to the Queen. So if the provisions referring to the Queen is appointing a Governor General and the Governor General appoints the Speaker of the House, this is all about the heirs and successors and the appointments of the Governor General. It does not bind the crown anymore. So people are probably asking, how on earth are these people getting away with this thing? Well, here's what we discovered. The act doesn't bind the crown anymore. So this is how those who swear allegiance to it in our parliament are getting away with what the constitutional people will say treason. But
because they're swearing their allegiance to it.
That's right. And
so the government's swearing their allegiance to this act doesn't bind the crown thing. So guess who else it doesn't bind? or the people who swear their allegiance to it. So the government, this is why the government is in such a state. So the Constitution is actually the foundation that allows now a springboard for this government to be so atrocious. So really, in the end, if you're supporting the Constitution, you're supporting this government and all the fraud
and the corruption. That's
because
how they're getting away
that's
with
how
it.
they're swearing their allegiance to the crown, and it's an act of the UK. So then we go on to the next. I'll go on quickly because I know I want to bring on another guest. Then we go on to the next part where it basically kicks off international law, the Constitution as well. Besides the act binding the crown, and they get all the immunity and everything from it. We move on just quickly down another 20 years to 1919. We've got the Treaty of Versailles. So we get our independent sovereign nation granted to us. So again, the constitutionalists go, no, no, no. But wait a minute, more than 61,000 men and women died for that. So we're going to spit in the face of them and say, no, we want to stay under the UK Act? No, we're going to honour that death, their blood sacrifice, and we're going to honour that we should have and are pursuing now to step out from underneath the UK Act, the Constitution, the Commonwealth Constitution Act 1901, step out from under that, honour the people who died for it, and step into the proper sovereign independent nation that we really are.
And let's not forget the 155,000 that were, wounded. And you imagine being wounded in that First World War. There was hardly any, good medical back in those days. So some of those people lived partly blown apart and gave they gave another blood sacrifice just being wounded.
Yeah, with Billy Hughes, that was granted. We were granted and ratified through our parliament. Everyone was cheering. Yay, we're an independent sovereign nation. Congratulations.
Can I just add to that too? So my understanding of it is that the moment the Crown happily signed off on that and asked for immediate ratification into our Parliament, they knew that they were what they were appointing through their Parliament into an act into our Constitution. They knew that they were actually forfeiting our own rights in Section 128 of our Constitution anyway, because they ratified it. They ratified an act into our Parliament from a treaty. And so they knew that they were defunking it. And then they immediately went on asking for a separation of debt from the realm and chiseled out about 4.5% of the Crown's debt to us and said, happy sovereignty, share the debt.
Well, not only what you're saying there is true, Jody, but it's actually, if you look at covering clause 5, it says all the laws made by the Parliament are binding on the courts and the government and so on. And it goes on like that. So if the Treaty of Peace was ratified by the Parliament and Section 10 is in the Treaty of Peace in the bill, then we haven't stuck to it, and they've just overrun it, which is what the British territorialists seem to continuously do in this country. Because not only have they done it here, they've done it, well, not just in New Zealand as well, but they also did it in the United Nations Charter. And once again, I've said on numerous interviews, I'm not a fan of the United Nations, but here we've got international law. The laws seem to be quite good under the Charter, but they seem to be they're not enforcing them, which is why the League of Nations was converted into the United Nations after failing to stop World War II. But it's the same thing here. And I'll just get Donna to read out Article 10 of the Covenant of the League of Nations, what it says. And that Article 10 was in the Treaty of Peace signed at Versailles, which was the document that created the Covenant of the League of Nations. Now, the other thing that I wanted to mention to you, that at the signing of the Treaty of Versailles, or the Treaty of Peace of Versailles, the UK Parliament signed it. Yes, the Australian government signed it, and yes, you're 100% correct. Another 32 other nations signed it. So the other 32 nations know that we all have our own sovereignty here, or moving away from Crown rule or colonial law back in 1919. But you had so many colonialists within the Parliament, somehow they sort of inch bit forward by bit forward and seem to just negate this thing.
Okay.
Can I just get you to read Article 10, please?
Yeah.
If you can read, it's quite small on our screen.
The members of the League undertake to respect and preserve as against external aggression and territorial integrity, and existing political independence of all members of the League. In case of any such aggression, or in case of any threat or danger of such aggression, the Council shall advise upon the means by which this obligation shall be fulfilled.
Now, this is where the League of Nations failed, because they didn't do anything about the Constitution still being used here, or the police wearing the Crown badge, who are aggressive people. So it's political aggression, political interference, and so on and so forth. But then we move on to another, 25 years, or is it 25? I've got bad maths. Anyway, 25 years, and we get to the Charter of the United Nations 1945. Now, again, the British Parliament and the Australian Parliaments were founding members, just like the League of Nations. But they're founding members, and they signed the document. And at Article 2, Paragraph 1, and I'll get Donna to read that out because it's a little bit small for me. Can you read out Article 1, please, if you can read it?
Yeah, Paragraph 1. The organisation is based on the principle of the sovereign equality of all its members. It uses that word sovereign. I hope people are okay with that. It actually uses it in the Acts, the word sovereign. So this says sovereign equality of all its members.
So is having the Constitution Act signed by our Parliament, or the police officers wearing their Crown badge here, is that sovereign equality? Because we haven't got it in this document here, but Article 102 or 103 of the Charter of the United Nations clearly states that any agreement or treaty that is made between the members must be registered with the Secretariat. Now, there's no such registration ever been registered. So it's a belligerent act being conducted by and infiltrated here in Australia by the belligerent military occupation.
So, the UK Act.
So, look, we've just proven here in a paperwork argument on a summary statement that you only have to read, 5 or 6 paragraphs and you know that it's gone. And some of the constitutional people will say to me, oh, you needed a referendum for it. I mean, I just don't get your way of thinking, because 128 says it needs a referendum, and the act is owned solely and exclusively by the British Parliament, and the British Parliament signed this act. There's no referendum required because the British Parliament are the owners of it, and therefore
they relinquished it.
They relinquished it at that time. There's, we don't need to have a bird cage or be sitting in a bird cage and we open the door and we all say, hey, Jody, do you want to have a referendum so we can fly out that door? Because it's been open to us and the whole wide world's out there, and we can grow our own individual personality and flourish and prosper and do all the things that this nation has there to offer for us.
Can I just say something on that?
Sure.
Either the strongest document in the land allowed this to happen with the governments that we see in charge of us selling us out today to becoming UN trustees, or it never had the power to stop it in the first place. It's a quote, right? It's a quote from an American constitutionalist back in the day when he worked out that the words on the paper either allowed for the government that we have today.
That's what it did.
Or it never had the power to stop them in the first place, because the power came as a UK act, and the UK were the people that they were the king George the IV, I think it was, wasn't it? Who signed at the treaty, right? And signed at the treaty to cut up the dominions of the realm. They were basically subdividing their assets off because they were bankrupt, right? And they were quite happily just chucking us off. So they played their part right there and then, constitutional or not. That was their act that they gave us to have it, and then they chopped us off. They ratified over, and they wanted it as quick as they could to push us to say, no, yes, you're it. You're the sovereign. You're it. You can read it in all the letters patent. You can read it in all the Governor General's paperwork. Between Billy Hughes and between the Crown, they talk back and forth, and they want it ratified as quickly as possible. And the sequence of events that comes after it. So even just coming back to a constitution where we talk about the imperial Tudor crown of Christian loyalty to the people as subjects, it doesn't give you back your sovereignty. It gives back. So it would give sovereignty back. The document would give sovereignty back to the crown, and you would become the subject of that crown again.
You mean the Constitution would?
The Constitution would only give even if we came back to it. So just for the average person out here, which is me, right? Average AF. That's what I am. That's my brand for me, right? Only 10% of the people were going to partake in the Constitution referendum. Only 6% of them actually voted yes. The women weren't invited, except for South Australia, and Indigenous certainly didn't get a say in it. So we're now in 2026 talking about going back to a document that didn't include women, didn't include Indigenous. Only 10% partook in it on the second attempt at getting it across the line. 6% said yes, and they packed that up and sent it to the Parliament, and the Parliament changed the legislation in it when they read the words binding to the Crown and said, fuck that, we're in bankruptcy in 1899, and we're about to subdivide our assets across this realm. And so we don't want to be, tied to the people very much.
We don't want accountability.
We want to make sure we push them away. And the debt-riddled empire that it was, chop that debt up and pass it on to all of the dominions as they flicked them after World War One. And then we're not saying from that point in this paperwork that the League of Nations and the UN is anything better. What we're saying is we have over and over and over beat ourselves against the wall as citizens, which is part of the occupying foreign administration. And we have gone through to the highest level of the court, which no longer has a king sitting above it, or nor a governor general. And both the governor general and the high courts are put in place by the prime minister, who sits at the Queen of Australia since the 1986 Act. So this is not saying that we love the international law. This is not saying we love the international law. This is the average person realizing that, well, we need someone to recognize it. And the only person that ever recognized our sovereignty, black and white, on this land was that Treaty of Versailles, even though it was an act. But the rug was pulled out from us by the crown as it eventually became usurped on its way to being usurped to a Catholic Roman crown anyway, right? So the whole thing was a sell-off, a sell-out, and I yield. But for the average person, what we're talking about is we need the people to understand what's been happening to us, and we don't need to revolve, we need to evolve.
That's right.
I just want to make a comment on, because you've brought up something that I saw not that long ago, but the Treaty of Peace was actually made redundant. I think it was in about 2013. So it sat there all that time, and it was only revoked in 2013 because I think that they realized that too many people were waking up to it and they needed to do something with it. But it sat there for all those years. So, and we just refer back to the
I'd just like to read this part.
The Charter of the United Nations. Yep, sure. The Charter of the United Nations. And at part 4, it says this act binds the crown. So if this act binds the crown, then, and you read under there, but they're very cheeky when they did it, because that's not actually in the charter, but it's in the front 7 or 8 pages. But it says this act binds the crown in the right of the Commonwealth, in the right of the states, in the Australian Capital Territory, and the Northern Territory. Now, when I sent letters to the Attorney Generals, and I sent it to all of them, only 2 responded, but they actually confirmed that it binds the governments, it binds the people, it binds the corporations under the government, and it binds the police, and it binds everything. And I actually have that document. So, I asked the authorities, like, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? They don't know. They just come up with some gobbledygook.
Pete, can we we've got the letter J in the background. Can we get a definition of Can we get a definition of civilian? Because that's been the talk of the week, right? That's where certain people,
bring him on.
Lost their fucking mind this week talking about that word civilian. And so let's put that to bed with what you would give an expert opinion.
Yeah, there's so much protection under the word civilian, and that's why
so I'm going to bring Jay forward.
Yep, bring him forward
Jay's
now.
the expert.
Yes, here he comes.
Hi Jay, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah, hi,
we
guys.
can hear you, mate.
Yeah, well, okay, so, it appears we're going around in circles for who is the crown, what is a constitution, that the Crown is very ambiguous. We've researched for years about in a lot of documents, government documents, as to the Crown, and we've always, even lawyers and esquires, come up and say, well, it's very ambiguous. So it's definitely more ambiguous in Australia, right? Because if you're signing treaties, you need two crowns to do that. So, you got Crown administrators, and then you've got heads of state as in a term of endearment under international law for a crown. So if they didn't recognize any of the chiefs over here, then there's one treaty partner gone. And if the Attorney General is signing for on behalf of the King or Queen, who's the other signatory? So you can't enter into a social compact and for anything to bind if there's a lack of crowns, right? So the crown is basically there's a crown in each government, right? And each crown is not, when they say crown, they're not referring to Queen Elizabeth II. They're saying in Dubai there's a crown, in Germany there's a crown. So they just say loosely, or the head of state is a crown. So the crown of this country. Okay, so you enter into a treaty, you got one crown. And if there's a lack of sovereignty over here and you're going around in circles, what happens is usually the Queen, under her Order of the Garter, will knight a administrator. So it'll be an esquire, a lord, a mayor, a lady, right? And so she'll say, go do my business down in Australia. So then the Attorney General, acting as administrative crown only, because he's not the crown, he will sign for on behalf. And then he goes, well, still lacking a crown. So who is representing Australia? There should have been a chief. Now we know this because they try to kick this off with The Voice, right? And so we're all curious, going, okay, who's going to be the crown? Is it going to be Palaszczuk in Queensland? Who will she sign with, right? Because we can identify one crown. What's the other? International law stipulates a social compact for a constitution where it's basically two or more signing a compact agreement are equal in rights, right? So your rights are derived from...
Jay, can we bring this round to the civilian word?
Civilian. Yeah, I'm getting there.
Civilian, because that's what everybody's sort of got their
Please.
hair in a knot.
Thanks.
So basically, if the ambiguity with crown leads into, well, what is who's going to be governed, right? So if there's no Australia because there's no crown and this act doesn't bind a crown, then basically there is no citizen, because you can't be a citizen of a state, right? You've got to be, it's all linked to royal assent and the crown and passing of these acts. So if all that breaks down because of the ambiguity, and which it is at the moment, and this is why they rushed in The Voice to govern the civilians, they probably likely had to take it out of Article 42, right? So occupation is a factual status under Article 42 of the Hague Regulations, right? Territory occupied when it is actually placed under the authority of the hostile army. The test is effective exercise of control by a hostile foreign force without the consent of the territorial sovereign. Okay, now that's the ambiguity of the crown. Who is the territorial sovereign? I'm getting to civilian. Common Article 2 of the 4 Geneva Conventions extends the law of occupation to all cases of partial or total occupation of the territory of high contracting parties. Who are the contracting parties? Okay, that's the ambiguity of the crown. All right, so the classification does not depend on the occupier's self-designation, liberation, stabilization, or transitional administration. The classification is independent of the legality of the initial use of force. Occupation law applies whether the invasion was lawful or unlawful. Sovereignty, here we get to sovereignty under Hague, does not pass to the occupier. The occupier is a temporary administrator and trustee, never a sovereign. So who is, now we get back to occupying. I'll take you back to 1776. This is put in context what a civilian is under occupied territory for the law of belligerence for a lack of a sovereign high contracting party, which you're referring to in your document, right, under international law. So who is the trustee? It's the foreigner. So you got a foreign occupation. Now in 1776, this already it happens in 1973 and 1776 in America. England sent over their esquires, foreigners, to set up a mirror image of the United States of America. And in doing so, they made phrases like you're referring to put clarity to ambiguity. We, the founding fathers, we, the people, these 52 esquires from London, right, hereby make this social compact, right, to constitute the sovereignty for ourselves. There's no we the people. We the people, right? Everyone else are civilians. There's no such thing as a US citizen. There's no such thing as Australian citizen. There's only civilians in occupied territory, right? And they didn't have to tell you, right? Occupation terminates when the occupying force withdraws or when the local government resumes the full and free exercise of sovereignty. That has not occurred, but can be initiated through the JAG texts and military manuals for the returning sovereign, right? So then you have to go, well, who is that? Jay, who is it? It's the tribes, it's the chief, it's the other high contracting signatory parties. It's the others that would enter into Palaszczuk's treaty process, right? So when Palaszczuk had a path to a treaty, they still discounted civilians, right? Because they're occupied. And so the civilians are treated under military manuals, under military government, JAG text, Geneva Conventions, right? And it's framed in Article 42 of Hague, under Article 42 of the Hague Regulations, territory occupied. Then it goes on and gives you the constitutes what occurs. If you want to return in to get rid of a military government, the foreign occupier from England, Britain, America, it doesn't matter, they're foreign. To end the belligerent occupation, right, the territory chief or leader has to assume his right to create a state, stand up and self-determine. They can't self-determine, right, until they announce their return. And there's JAG texts to announce the return. So all the military manuals dictate how to end the war, how to declare peace, how to return to sovereignty, how to deal with civilians, all right? So the occupying force, right, when they pull you over in your vehicle or car, they're doing a stop and seizure and they're saying, papers, please, where's your license, right? And what they're doing is they consider you a spy or a saboteur in foreign enemy territory, right? So they're trying to identify who you are. This is all under the laws of captivity and military government under the Hague Regulations and Geneva Conventions. In regards to your property, the civilian has usufructory rights, but their private property is receipted. So civilian can't own anything except private property. If you're the owner of a port or a plant or an army base or a government house, right, it can be commandeered, or even your vehicle can be receipted as private property used and commandeered. The only way they can take your car and push you out of your private property is if it's retitled at the titles office. And then they give you a receipt, right, for the private property they're out to confiscate. Heard of on the movies, can't need to commandeer your vehicle. The only way that can happen is if there are foreign military occupying your land and sequestering your private property from the civilian, right? So all your titles, land titles, your property titles, right, illegally are being sequestered if they're not ports, if they're not shipping yards, if they can't genuinely be used by the foreign military army. So they give you a receipt of your property, like when you go into a jailhouse, they give you your property back, right? And you signed the release of the receipt to say that you're being released out of custody, military custody under martial law, and you're going back into general population as a civilian, to be treated as a civilian, right? So you have no Bill of Rights or human rights, right? Because you're not a human.
Jay, can I ask a question?
Yep.
Sorry. Is this in your? I mean, you could talk for 7 years on this for the average layman like me. Is this the reason why we can't get any remedy? Haven't seen any remedy for Nuremberg type? With the COVID vaccinations, that everybody's been saying they want a Nuremberg trial. They want human rights. They want all these different things. And obviously we have our own 5123 section 5123A of the Constitution for medical conscription. Is that the reason why the average Aussie cannot find remedy? Is this a pathway to sort of identifying who and what rights, the only ones that we have left under this foreign occupation? Please.
Yeah. Nuremberg would be like, people talk about Nuremberg 2.0 and throw it around and go, well, you'd have to call them out for a war crime. So the most powerful remedy in your toolbox is to say that it's a war crime because a bioweapon was used by foreign military to exterminate and genocide the civilian. If you petition as a citizen, there's no such thing as a citizen. So get that out of your head. There's no such thing as a constitution. Get that out of your head. There's no such thing as attorney, right? General. Now, there is a general, and under the UN trusteeship program and Article 42, the Attorney General is trustee over your title. So you would have to speak as a civilian in regards to your rights as a beneficiary of a trustee public servant, right? And then you have to say, under the trusteeship, myself as a beneficiary received medical intervention that harmed me, right? And then you go, did it harm you? Yes. I seek to report the crime because it was a bioweapon. So a bioweapon put out by Pfizer, military, not Pfizer the company, military. So the military is caused a war crime by not taking care of the beneficiaries with a trusteeship program, but instead causing injury. So the cause of the bioweapon is the war crime, is the Nuremberg trial, right? So the citizen has to call it out or report it as a war crime under their Bill of Rights. And you go, Jay, what Bill of Rights? What are you talking about? Human rights? No. The rights for a civilian. And that's all in your Geneva Conventions, the Hague's International Committee, your humanitarian books, the operational, operational.
Thank you, Jay.
Yeah,
That's
Thank
awesome.
you, Jay. That's what I need, Jay, because people are thinking we're trying to, corrupt the path back to the only place that we were the sovereign, and I'm like, no, we have to know what we are being treated as. The average Aussie like me needs to understand what we are being treated as, and where the rights have been shifted lawfully in terms of international, but not natural law, not God's law and all the different things, right? I'm just trying to get. There's millions of Australians out there that are confused, and this is very difficult for all of us to understand, particularly myself. I'm the litmus test for that, and I'm trying to change the language to understand that we are the victims of what has happened in our country. We've had it at coercive gunpoint when the UN took trusteeship for the debt, in 1948 and became the trustee officially on paper. And, from that point forward, if not behind that, from the corruption and the fraud that you've just showed us, but from that point forward, these different things that are happening to the civilians. And so I'll yield, but I am limited for time. So if you'd like to give us a summary of that, mate, I don't have the time to.
Yeah, well, the Hague regulations protect the civilians in occupied territory. First, you've got to know that you're being occupied. Second, the only power you got is declare that you surrender, wave the white flag, and you've been given the opportunity to discharge. So whenever they create a debt or charge against you, well, you're hors de combat, which stipulates that it's a war crime to charge somebody that has left the battlefield. It's no longer an enemy, but has surrendered. Right? Everybody knows that, and Red Cross will uphold that. So they're upholding your rights, right, to surrender. So what they don't want you to do is end hostilities, declare peace, put your hands in the air and surrender and say, well, I can't be charged. If you charge me, I'm going to, report it to the ICC as a war crime. As a civilian, not a citizen, because they'll laugh at me out of that office, say, what citizen? Right? So it's defunct.
Thank you.
Got it.
That's really good summary, Jay. Thanks.
Thank you, Jason.
I just wanted to
Thank
read
you,
out
Jay.
this little.
Look
I could
forward
just
to hearing
read out-
more from you, Joe. I'm just gonna let these guys keep rolling because
Oh, thanks.
But thank you very
Okay,
much, Jason. That was an excellent, excellent statements and very clear.
Oh, very great depth of knowledge Jay's got, I just want to finish off some of the stuff here. So all Australian governments, federal and state, are hostile foreign occupiers and are offending international law. And they don't recognise international law here. We were in court again today. Peter had a small win in court today. And again, we spoke to the police prosecutor. No, don't recognise international law. No, the Act doesn't bind all this stuff. Does bind all this stuff. So anyhow, and the other thing, so congratulations to Peter today, had a win. And the other one I wanted to read was the evidence is a widespread attack on a civilian population, specifically but not limited to the acts of terrorism, torture, and on it goes. So that's what we're explaining to the ICC when we take this document over. We're explaining that this is what's happening here. We are going over hand in hand with the First Nation people, and we will be, again, working black and white together, coming together. They were genocided. They were harmed. We're getting genocided. If you want to say black and white, so are we. But both of us coming together, we can protect the nation. This is the sovereign nation, independent nation state. And we are the civilians here for the moment. Now that title can change, like Jay was saying, when we do get our get the occupiers off the land. We're not always going to be civilians. We'll get the occupiers off the land, whatever nation they are from. May I just say that? We're not just talking about UK.
Yes.
Just off the record. I want to say whatever nation they're from.
Particularly one that may start with the letter I.
Nothing. Anyhow, you know what I mean. So whatever nation they're from, we want to protect this nation. And we're not saying that we're sovereign this or sovereign that, whatever. We're talking about the nation being a sovereign, independent nation state, us being protected civilians on this land. And we're working together, like I said, with the tribes. We've got beautiful Annie Glenda. She's like, yay, I want to go to The Hague with you, so she's hopefully going to be on board. Love her. She spoke at the grand jury. She's actually the one that said Australia is a crime scene. Annie Glenda was the one that said that. So bless her and all the people coming together. We really just have to get past our old stuff, whatever that may be. Oh, that person looked at me the wrong way one time. Just let's get past it and come together. And,
is it? Can I? So there's a question in the side there. Sorry to interrupt before I miss it.
No, you're right.
I think section 46. Jay's probably can just give me a yes or no. This is section 46 of the Geneva Convention that forbids forcing civilians to partake in the governing or the laws. Is that right? Is it section 46 of Geneva that stops us from being forced into voting for these people?
Yeah, it comes under breach of laws of civil conscription.
Yeah.
So they set up a zone, and the tax office runs a military zone. So this is any commercial activity in the occupier's military zone. So if you've got if you're doing some private trade, private society, you can't be conscripted to the other side. So you're not employed or deployed like Centrelink employment.
Yep.
They conscript you to go get a job. So that's a breach of section 60 of the Social Security Act, right? Civil conscription. They're telling you civil conscription for civilians.
Yes. Thank you, mate. Sorry, John. I just wanted to point that out because we've been talking about voting a lot, and Pauline Hanson's going to save the day from the foreign invaders apparently because I guess she's trying to get rid of immigrants. She's just not getting rid of the foreign occupiers. She's just getting rid of the ones that run the cafes, I guess. Sorry, keep going if there's anything you'd like to keep moving forward.
Yeah, she's getting rid of her. She wants to keep her pay packet, but try and get the population to side with her.
The war machine is funded by gas exports and oil and rare earth mineral exports. This is why you have to ask Pauline, do you support Gina Reinhardt? And where's the money going from all the exports? Is it going to the war machine or to foreign wars? Right. So the wealth has been extracted out of here to fight foreign wars. And the military, the foreign occupiers, are running their military script, the new polymer money. And their job is to make sure everybody uses it, right, and deployed or employed generally. And if you collect tax or GST or withhold tax, you're gainfully employed as Mr. or Mr. in the military, right, for the foreign occupier. We could at least start there and stop doing that.
Thank you.
It's always gobsmacking talking to Jay. Honestly, you could record his stuff and do just presentations on it. He's just any question you've got, fire away at him while we've got him here. Honestly, he's a treasure. We're hoping to take him over to The Hague with us.
If you need an ABN for a trust or a company, it's you're stating that you're involved in commercial activity for profit in the military zone, which is broken up into postcodes. Right, so they're military zones, which is a survey overlay of tribal land or even the former British, right? So you've got always comes down to split titles or titles. If you're driving, they suspend your license and the title. So they give you a title, you travel with that, and then they suspend it. It's held in abeyance. They're just not telling you the military terminology for suspended license. It's suspended title. Native title is all one big trick of giving you a thing, a title, a name, a straw person, and then suspending it or limiting or restricting it or billing it or loading a debt into it. And then under the trustee program, what the ATO is doing is just sending you a new name that appears similar to yours, loading it with debt, and then asking you to be surety for it and trustee to divert liability for the effing debt, right? So you have a right of discharge, but they want to get you into agreement that you hold liability as trustee, replacing them, right? Under the UN trusteeship program, it was never intended to be trustees. We're beneficiaries of that system. We're not trustees. So if you're going to take away anything tonight, stop being surety, stop being trustee, right? And do not try and pay the debt or assume responsibility of the debt or assume liability. Best thing you can do for yourself is just say, hey, I'm not the trustee. I hereby appoint you fiduciary as trustee. I'm the beneficiary.
Thank you, Jay. Some of that, judging from the comments, there's a lot of people that are aware. We've definitely attracted a lot of people that are really aware. There are lots of different nuances out there, and that's great. For all the people that are going to watch this, thank you very much for taking part. This is the best thing we can do for a rebuttal for the people out there that will not rebut, that will only speak one language and just go round and round and round, and to the point where I start to wonder whether they're not doing what the gatekeepers do so well, which is hold us exactly where they need us to hold us, to not identify what we are or who we are by claiming silly things and making you win silly prizes. But until we can actually start seeing some sort of progress, then I would challenge everybody to do exactly what Jay just said. There's plenty of information. We've done plenty of work on that. Even that's a little bit a little bit difficult, but not on the basis of what we just said, Pete, Donna, Jay. That's not on the basis of that. They're doing it on the basis of being a citizen. They're taking citizenship into their courts, claiming sovereignty, and they are literally being the definition of a sovereign citizen, smack bang in front of them, and telling us that anything less than the Constitution is not that. And I'm like, no, you are partaking 100% in the sovereign citizen movement, because you are calling yourself a sovereign, but and then partaking with all of the cards and all of the administrative tools and the fiat currencies as a citizen.
Well,
Can I
just hang on?
Can I just say? Go on, Jess.
Hang on. Yeah. Okay. So here, under Article 43, occupation law and rights impose a duty. Okay. So the occupying power has to restore and ensure, as far as possible, public order and civil life. So if you protest, if you do anything to create public disorder, you're going away from promoting your civil life or return. And no one has gone to as far as sovereignty goes. The citizen doesn't exist, so you can't claim to be something you're not. Because if you're sovereign, well, until somebody goes to the Netherlands and records their borders and boundaries and registers as a state, nation, or country, there is no such thing as sovereign or sovereignty in this continental mainland, formerly known as Australia. Right? So
Yep.
This is why the occupiers are here, because there is no sovereignty. There is no king, queen, or paper queen of Australia. Sure, it's not sovereignty. They can't go and list it and list the borders and countries and continents in the Netherlands, right? Have they done that? Right. It's the same with Ukraine. Russia told anybody reporting on the war in Ukraine and given a biased statements about an internal conflict that they'll be arrested. Ukraine, there's no borders for Ukraine registered in the Netherlands. It doesn't exist. There is no such place. Russia. Right.
Thank you, Jay. I can see Donna's going to move along, and I've got to go to bed soon. I've got another 12 and a half hour day on the ground tomorrow.
Thanks so much for having us on, Jody. And we're just scratched the surface, really, of what we're doing. So.
And I'm happy to do. I'm happy. In about 4 days when I'm off, I'm happy to do a 3-hour live. We can talk.
Yeah, let's do another one then. We can run through the document then and unpack it a bit more. We just wanted to alleviate people's worries about the Constitution. We're not just speaking out of our hat. We got the evidence. We've done a lot of research into the name, and we're saying it's that there is the protections under using civilian. So that's what we've been able to ascertain. And look, it's just, like I said, Peter and Oars, which is Peter and others, going over to the ICC and ICJ. If you want to help, fantastic. Next week, we'll have this endorsement ready, and we'll have that webpage, ucsa.land, up and running. And come on, have a look at the documents, and if you want to help us, then sign aboard, because like Peter often describes, you can be part of the submission, the filing, or going over to ICC in regards to, you'll get a filing number, and we'd love to get 10,000, 100,000, 1 million people to help us go over, because in the end we're asking, and if we got to the end of the document, we're asking for immediate arrests, military arrests of quite a few people. And so we're putting our heads out and putting ourselves on the line to take this very important document over with a small team. And so it'd be great to have people get behind us and do that. And we'd really appreciate that.
Yeah, especially the constitutionalists, the whole lot of them. We don't have any argument with anybody. We've just got facts, and we just want everybody to jump on board. If you don't want to jump on board, then you have to continue to go to the Australian courts and try and get remedy there, and it's a non-event. So we're not here to say we're the bee's knees or anything. We're just having a good go because no one else is doing it. So we'd love your support.
And systematically, we're working our way through the different options until we can prove with paperwork like I've done. Now, I'm a layman. I am the literal definition of a layman. I posted that video a couple of times in different formats where I just stepped through what we've just talked about there. But basically, trying to keep it simple from 1900 through to today, to say that the only recognition that I can find in any of the documents that I've read, any of them, is a civilian, because we are occupied. And I listen to every constitutionalist says we are occupied. Every constitutionalist says we are under foreign occupation. So immediately I'm like, well, then why am I not a civilian? And they lose their mind. And I'm like, well,
Oh,
then you're not
absolutely.
That's a shame.
then
Take a good look, fellas, and
That's
everybody.
a shame, isn't it? It's yeah, because the scary thing is, and the sad thing is the Constitution is actually the foundation of this whole
Mess.
debacle.
fraudulent system, right?
Yeah, because it's foreign occupation and they're swearing allegiance to it with act buying the crown out of it. That's why the government and all child protection still snatching heaps of children every year. That's why they can all perjure themselves in court and get away with it.
If you want to talk funny oxymorons, Section 42 says that they have to swear an oath to the crown, and then Section 44 says that they have to be booted out of Parliament if they sworn an oath to a foreign power.
Foreign power, yes.
Well, they're not. Hang on. They're not. It's not a controversy. What they're doing is they're bonded in court to the crown, right? Which is you. So to avoid doubt, a reference to the crown is a reference to everybody on the call.
Yeah.
Right. And when we agree to what their administration, we give it royal assent.
Yep.
In court. And when you go into Crown versus, say, Jody, it's a friendly suit where you're suing yourself because you're the crown with a person. You're the crown and you hold a person. You hold an estate. So it's Crown holds an estate in fee simple called Jody Lowe. That's how they do it.
So I'm surety for my own suing.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a friendly suit. That's
and then
why
you pay your way in jail.
That's why bankruptcy notice says the prosecution of yourself, because you, the crown, are suing your next of kin, your twin at birth, your person.
Yeah, the incorporated version of we talked about that the other day about the
good. Jody unpacks a lot of this stuff.
Be careful when you be careful when you blame the crown, because you're blaming yourself for your own actions.
And so we're looking to bring that kind of international law recognition back here, where we, it's
and also educate our people, right? So,
yeah, of course,
people, right? Because we nothing in history has ever really worked without the people, a lot of people behind it. We can all talk about Magna Carta is and declarations of independence and treaties of Versailles, but they all come after a significant conflict with a lot of people pushing back, usually bloodshed. We don't need it. We've had enough, all right?
We don't want bloodshed.
We've had enough damage to the people of this country. Let's identify ourselves as what we are, which is occupied. Work out what that occupying thing is, because I'm reading, for the most part, I'm reading it's debt. It's war debt that, the debtors pay both sides. The IMF started a lot of this stuff in 1944, taking control with that UN. And so what is that debt? Where's that money? How long to be paid off? What are we got to do to get rid of this foreign occupier? And the first thing is do it peacefully as a civilian, saying, I'm not the enemy. Like, I'm not the enemy. I'm like you said, like Jay said, I'm supposed to be the beneficiary of this trusteeship shit that you put me under, and instead I'm the surety, and all I do is pay the bills of the dead bloody profit. All right. So, is there anything more, mate? I think honestly, I think we could talk about it for days, and we will. I just wanted to get the opportunity to get this out as quick as possible. It might just throw a bit of water for the people that are out there. Obviously, I did say what Jackie was right about was I went and changed the name of my group. I'm the sole administrator. 80% of the people in there wouldn't have a clue what we do anyway. They just click yes when Jody invites them to something. It was originally the FUCCP group. I changed the name to the United Civilians of Sovereign Australia. It was a sticking point. It was what sent her off the rail. I have since changed the logo back. I cannot change the name for 28 days. That's a Facebook rule, but I did change the definition of what we are. I have put a vote in there with the video that I put up explaining exactly how we got to where we are, and this video will go in there as well. So if you want to rebut the claim from a constitutional point, please come on the show. Please give us rebuttals to it line by line in detail for the acts that I talk about in there. I am a layman, but if you can't explain it to me, then you cannot explain it to the 27 million people you need to get on your side to win this country back. So that's the way that I look at it, not because I'm clever or stupid. It's just because I know that I can explain to people in a different language that you clever people, use with all of the big fancy words, right? So
you make sense, mate. You do.
Yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
sorry that happened, because you were just speaking your mind, and you were just supporting us, and we thank you for that.
No,
We
mate.
apologise
Yeah,
for that.
don't be
Because
sorry.
thank you for supporting us, and if you've had to change it back to whatever you've had to change it back to, you know.
No,
say
I put it to a vote.
You do what you want with it. We
No,
appreciate your
I put it
support.
to a vote, Donna. I put it to a vote, and so far, I think it's like 290 to 1 that are super happy with the name and understand why.
Nice.
Because if they take the time to watch the video, which most of those people did, then
Awesome.
they get from the layman what we're aiming at and what we're trying to do. If you're
The
head
people are
shoved up your,
smart.
if you've got your head shoved so far up your ass that you can only see, you know, the one thing that you can think you can see, and you won't watch the video and rebut it. If you only want to throw fire and be, you know, just be rude, nasty, and throw names and that sort of stuff. Like I said, I'm happy to take that, because I do that all the time to the freedom movements of people that continually tell you to vote, right? So I'm happy to get a bit of blowback for a change.
Yeah,
It's nice to see everybody slaying me for a change instead of me slaying everybody. So I've got thick skin. It's the reason why I've been put where I've been put, to be the opposition to the mainstream media and mainstream social media paid by Zion, right? So I don't mind wearing that for it, because the fear that comes from people is the fear of change. And for 126 years, we have thought that this document was going to protect us, and it hasn't. We have been raped, robbed, murdered, jabbed, injured, and so many people have died at the hands of people who have taken advantage of the fact that we don't have something to save us, right? And so at least understanding who we are and where we come from, and then together, black and white, we will stand back on this land, and only then will we worry about what sort of form of new hierarchical governance we will have, because our children will be safe. They'll be sitting on a beach somewhere having a great time while all you guys with all your words can sit in a nice big office somewhere and work out what it looks like going forward, right? Because until their children are safe, I can't continue to argue over, you know, what it is, except move forward. And that's what yous have done. And I appreciate that. So thank you, Jay. Thank you, Pete. Thank you, Donna. And thank you, everybody, for watching. And again, share it out there. Feel free to take the logo. You'll see that on my page, the United Civilians of Sovereign Australia logo. Post it yourself, put it everywhere you want. Start to talk about what we're doing and get on board next week. The ucsa.land site will be live. The paperwork with the evidence will be there. And then the goal of that is to sign it, to approve these guys to go over and do what they're doing, and continue the fight against this foreign occupier, not a crown, the foreign occupier.
Yeah, I just want to make it clear, it's not a petition. It's just an endorsement. We can go over there with 5 of them, or 5,000, or 500,000. So if you want to help, fantastic.
It's showing the international courts the maturity of this country. Have we woken up and worked out who we are yet, and what our Anzacs died for? Or are we still sport little children whinging, wanting another fucking lolly at the front counter that we didn't deserve, and we only get one? We only get it because mum's embarrassed.
Right? Yeah, under guardianship. This is stepping out from guardianship.
And this is for the Christians out there too. This is for the Christians out there too. Understand what your Creator Crown was like. You want to talk about not having Muslims in this country? Well, you better understand what happened to your Christian crown, right? Yes. Because this is you are now under a Catholic a Catholic Roman Vatican crown. If you are under anything at all, so just be mindful. There's lots of things at play here. It's a lot of work to be doing what these people are doing, and if they don't have our support, then it will go nowhere. We need 1 million people to have a look at this and endorse this document from next week, please. Thank you all. I'm going to sign off.
Thank you, Jody.
Signing off.
Nice to meet you, Jay. I'll look forward to a talk in the future. And Pete and Donna, drive safe. Look after yourselves. We need you.
Thank you so much.
Stay safe.
Yeah.